And am I coming in clear, Carla, right
Yeah,
now?
you
Yeah.
sound really-
All right, good, because I want to at least let it get in, because I think last week was like 30 seconds of we're live, but it was still garbled. Okay, so, hey, what's going on? We are live. It is Brian, once again, from SeacoastBeverageLab.com, and this right here, in front of your face or in your ears, is the Seacoast Beverage Lab podcast for the 18th of February, 2015. Lovely Wednesday. New England still in the snowpocalypse. I will not show you outside my window because you think it's it's not real, but the pain and the hurt of the cold is very real. And there are three people at least on this show that know what I'm talking about, and one we just don't even want to. I mean, I don't know why we had him on when we're in such bad weather, but we need that connection to warm us up. But so nevertheless, we have a guest, a great guest. We're very happy to have him. Once again, I screwed the pooch, and I do not have a beer from that guest. But in celebration of the 21st Amendment and the can, I do have a can. I have the, what is it called? Oh boy, it is the Granola Brown Ale from Black Hog Brewing out of Oxford, Connecticut. Black Hog is the brewery that Tyler Jones of the Portsmouth Brewery opened, and his beers are quite good. And if you check it out real quick, just a quick shout out on the pull tab, a little piggy. Look at that thing.
Nice.
So kudos to Tyler.
Tab.
It's a great beer, and for anyone who likes pigs, I mean, it's on the tab. So nevertheless, let's get to it. Carla, what's happening?
Hey guys, Carla, known online as the Beer Babe. I actually did my homework, and
Yes.
I got some sneak attack.
Nice.
So poured that out. Nice saison there. So cheers, everybody. I hope everyone else is warmer than we all are here.
You said sneak attack, and I'm like, hey, okay, hold on. But awesome. How's the beer?
It's awesome, actually. I'm really digging it. I think this is one of the first saisons in a can I've ever had.
Awesome. Oh, man, see,
Nice.
it's like a weather-changing saison right there. It's awesome. Shano, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, sorry.
Sean
You
Jansen
got
from-
I
got
knew we were
two
gonna get
dots
that.
now. You
No,
said
it's
Shano.
okay.
I'm
Sean.
Shano.
Oh yes, that's such a crazy thing. Sean J, what's up?
How's it going?
Yeah, what's up?
I'm Sean Jansen from twobeerguys.com. I did my homework tonight. I have a little Brew Free or Die, which is
Nice.
some great artwork. I also have the winter seasonal called Fireside Chat.
Nice.
That's-
Sweet label. We got to talk about that too.
And
Oh,
Back
geez.
in Black, which is the Black IPA.
Yes,
Wow.
one of my very first craft beers, and that's why I'm super excited to have. I'm excited to have two Seans on the show. Let's get that out of the way. But I'm very excited to have co-founder and brewmaster of 21st Amendment Brewery out of San Francisco, Sean O'Sullivan. How's it going, Sean?
It's going great. Thanks. It's great to be on the show. I think this is officially my first Google Hangout ever.
Yes.
So,
Nice.
and I know you guys are from New England, so I wanted to bond with you, even though because I'm wearing the tweed hat and I got the jacket on, even though it's 65 degrees outside here in the Bay Area. So it's so cold here as well.
Oh, geez, the AC. Turn the AC down.
Yeah, a high of 72 today.
So, what are you drinking in this warm time?
Yeah, I got a little Brew Free or Die action going on here. West Coast style IPA. It's tasting quite delicious right now, out of the can, of course, and
Excellent.
yeah, it's awesome.
Well, before we get going, a community cheers to everybody for let's start the show off right.
Cheers.
And
of course.
Cheers.
I also had to get going here. So we are super excited to have a West Coast brewery. A lot of our guests lately have been from the East Coast, but we try to expand. And I partial of the reason why I didn't have the beer of yours tonight is we don't have it in New Hampshire yet.
No, you don't.
But so I guess for those that haven't seen your beers much and don't know much about your background, want to just give us a quick overview of the 21st Amendment and how you guys got started in brewing?
Yeah. Well, real quick, like my background, even before I got started in brewing, I was actually living in Los Angeles. So we're currently in San Francisco. I was living in Los Angeles. I was a photographer. Worked for a local weekly where I shot punk rock and political photography. I worked at CNN as a producer in their Los Angeles bureau. I worked as a paralegal for a New York law firm that had an office in Los Angeles, and kind of thought I was going to go to law school and business school, and didn't really want to do that. got into home brewing. Was pulled in by the sweet elixir of alcohol, and decided to pull up stakes and came up to Northern California to get involved in brewing, and got a job at Triple Rock Brewery, which is one of the first craft breweries in the state of California, just there in Berkeley where I live, and then got a job at a couple other breweries. Met my business partner early on. He actually was living in Los Angeles and moved to the Bay Area for the same reasons I did. There wasn't really anything going on back then in Southern California in terms of craft beer, and so we met up. And actually met at brewing school out at UC Davis. He was writing articles for the Celebrator Beer magazine on that class, and we were lab buddies, lab partners actually for the chemistry portion of the course. And I invited him back to Triple Rock to brew with me, and he came out to brew, and we were, as every guest brewer, what every guest brewer does is that they clean the mash tun out. So he was cleaning the mash tun out, and I literally said to him, remember this to this day, I said, hey, what are you doing with the rest of your life? And I said, well, I want to open a brewery. And he said, well, I want to open a brewery too. And I said, well, we both can't be brewers. And so he was trying to be an actor in Los Angeles, actually, so we had a lot of restaurant experience, running restaurants, managing restaurants. So we decided to divide the tasks up that way. So nice. I was the brewer for the company. I'd already been brewing for a couple of years anyway, and he was the front of the house guy. So we wrote a business plan and raised a bunch of money and looked for a neighborhood in San Francisco that could sustain, that had a large enough space to have a production brewery as well as a restaurant, and also a place where the rents were a little cheaper than the rest of San Francisco. And we found an area just to the south of Market Street area, and found this great old building that was built in the 20s, and opened the 21st Amendment in August of 2000. The great thing about it is that the baseball park for the San Francisco Giants play is actually only 2 blocks away from us and opened the same year, which was everybody was like, my God, you guys are geniuses to open it up, but it was honestly just dumb frickin' luck. I mean, but I always tell people, yeah, we totally did market research and this stuff, and it was great too because it was a bad time to open a restaurant in San Francisco back then. It was the end of the .com era, the first round, and so there's about a handful of times we almost went out of business, and but that ballpark kept us open for those 81 games a year. So you flash forward a little bit to around 2006, and we're thinking of ways to expand the business, and we're kind of gun shy of opening up another brew pub because of what happened before. But then I take a trip out to the Great American Beer Festival, and I go out to Oscar Blues out in Lyons, Colorado, and I see what they're doing out there, and they're putting their Dale's Pale Ale in a 12-ounce can, and I was kind of struck by lightning when I was like, holy shit, this is the future of craft beer. And I got, I had these great ideas, and I went back to San Francisco and I told Nico, hey, I got this great idea of how we're going to expand our business, and we're going to put our beer in cans, and we're going to sell it. And he thought it was the dumbest idea in the world. And so we kind of, we talked about it and looked, because nobody was putting their beer in cans at the time. So we looked at we looked at all the great reasons that you heard about, right? Because a lot of people are doing it right now. The portability, recyclability. It's better for the beer because no light can penetrate the package. We can put about 110 cases on a pallet versus about 70 for glass. So all those great reasons, kind of came to light, and we bought a little 2-head filler for our little 500 square foot brewery in San Francisco, and we put watermelon wheat and IPA. That's what they were called back then. They didn't have these kind of fun names they have now, and it was great. People they totally took to them, and started distributing. Then we wanted to take it to the next level. We're like, well, this is pretty popular, but we didn't have the capital to build a brewery, so we took a page from a friend of ours, Pete Schlossberg, who owned Pete's Wicked Ale, as well as Sam Adams, and we looked across the country to essentially, brew our beer on somebody else's system, contract brewing, or what we call partner brewing, and that's how we ended up brewing in Cold Spring, Minnesota. So we went out there in February of 2008 and talked to Mike Knipe, and we asked him, hey, I want to bring my watermelon, my hops, my crazy ingredients that we put in all our beers, and he was like, oh yeah, we could do that. So we went out. And don't you know? Yeah, you could get your cheese curds and your ice fishing on too here. And a little town of about 3,000 people. It's about an hour and a half outside of Minneapolis, and we brewed our first batch of beer there, I think, in May of 2008, and we brewed about 1,000 barrels this year,
Wow.
that year actually.
Was
And
that the second state that you ever opened up?
that was that was probably the fourth state, I think. We actually opened up California and then Oregon and then Washington, and I think we jumped across to New York and then might have been Washington D.C. as well, and then to Minnesota. So we didn't jump into the Minneapolis pool very quickly, early on at least.
So a couple questions about the earlier part of the story. The brewery that you came from, Triple Rock, is that still open and operating?
Oh, yeah. It absolutely is. It's kind of interesting when you kind of look at the pedigree of brewers that have walked through those halls. I mean, there's a lot of there's brewers that have gone on to be great professional brewers, and also brewers that have gone on to open their own places. So, and the irony is, flash forward to this, last couple of years, we're opening this production brewery in San Leandro, and John Martin, who owns Triple Rock, as well as Drake's Brewery out here. His brewery is literally on the other side of the fence for us now. So we're now neighbors. So it's kind of come full circle. It's really a great, great moment. So.
And then, so when you decided to open up the brewery, obviously with all the planning, because you wanted to open next to the Giant Stadium, was your vision just to be a brew pub and to serve beer there, or did you have a future vision to either bottle or can at the time?
We really didn't. I mean, we were so, when you open up a business like that in kind of a really stressful time in terms of, the economic condition. I mean, open in 2000, economic, and then we had 9/11 next year, and then economic downturn from there. So, you're just trying to keep the doors open at that point. And I think we were toying around with maybe opening another brew pub, maybe in the East Bay over here, like in Berkeley or something, but not really. I mean, not until the can idea really came into our orbit that we decided that was going to be our path. So,
from the progression that you mentioned, I'll call it before and after your trip to the GABF, did your beer styles, flavors, or your profile of what you guys were originally brewing change? Did you decide to either drop what you were doing beforehand and kind of go with a different direction, or even modify existing flavor?
You mean in terms of the beers that we are producing now in cans? You think we change direction? Actually, that's a really good question. Nobody's asked that way before. The great thing about having a pub brewery and then going into a production model is that the pub actually acts as this wonderful test kitchen. Probably actually every one of the beers that's come out of the production brewery that we're currently using was a 12-barrel batch, and even before that was probably a 5-gallon batch at my house. So the mandates never change. We've always looked for interesting beers and interesting styles to emulate in the package side.
Nice one.
That's pretty cool. The reason that it made me actually think of the question is sort of the founder's story of how that they changed directions sort of post their original makeup, and then realizing that they wanted to brew sort of different style beers.
No, it hasn't really changed at all. I mean, again, going back to the model of the brew pub, where you can actually do anything you want. You can sell your mistakes. If it's not exactly what you wanted to make it, you change the name and you dry hop the beer. But I mean, probably the only thing that's changed is that if you go back and you Google some of our original cans, I mean, they were very different from where we are right now. So in terms of from a branding perspective, our first IPA can looked nothing like this. It was I don't know if I have any of the old ones here, but they look like energy drinks. They were awful. And you realize you weren't really, we had our 6-pack box. We were putting it back in a box in those days. Had a little window in it, and it was because we thought we had to show people that we had cans in the box. So, but the window would tear open when the merchandisers were putting them on the sets and all that, in the grocery and liquor stores and all that. But and the can didn't speak craft. It was really an energy drink. Then we hooked up with some friends of ours, TBD out of Bend, Oregon, that run a marketing and an advertising company that are friends with our president, Dave Wilson, who used to work for Deschutes Brewing Company. And they kind of took us in a different direction. I mean, they kind of really took us in this whole twist on, exactly, there's FDR having a smoke and a drink with an elf, and so it was really it was really an opportunity to kind of like hone, like, well, what is the 21st Amendment? All right, we've got this historic element to it, but we could have a lot of fun with doing a twist on the Americana theme, like having the Statue of Liberty sitting on the Gold Gate Bridge like she is in the Hell or High Watermelon beer. So I think if anything changed, the actual package changed, but the beer has always stayed the same.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the original inspiration for calling the brewery 21st Amendment? Kind of, what the background is there, how you came to that as being representative of you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we were looking in the South of Market neighborhood, which is a really old historical neighborhood of San Francisco, where, back in the gold mining days, it was actually a fairly rich neighborhood where a lot of the captains of these, these ships that would travel over the world had houses right across the street from where we are in South Park. And then we discovered there were probably around 49 to 50 breweries in San Francisco that existed right before Prohibition. So we said, hey, let's look around and see. We like history, and San Francisco has great history. So we started looking at old phone books for breweries back then, and they weren't that interesting. There was like the National Brewing Company or the Blue and Gold Brewing Company. Phoenix Brewing Company. He was like, yeah, that's inspirational. And so we realized we were putting our toe in that kind of that pond of the 21st Amendment, that era. And so it kind of almost found us. It was like, this is the name of it. And it was like 21st Amendment Brewery. Well, that's a mouthful, and it certainly was at the time, but it kind of stuck. And then the great thing about it is that, like I said earlier, I mean, the packaging all kind of like now drives a lot of those decisions based on that kind of idea of this historical moment. So I love it. I mean, I think it's great. I mean, I feel really lucky that with the new packaging and all that. I mean, you kind of wonder where this whole thing is going to take you sometimes, and it's never planned, and you trip and fall and pick yourself up, and then you find your way. And I think we've done a great job with the packaging. It's an interesting story, kind of just a sidetrack here on the packaging a little bit, but the guy who actually does a lot of the illustrations for us, his name is Joe Wilson, and he's actually lives in London. He's English. Can you believe it? So and it's actually interesting because it's an outsider's take on these
what
sort
his
of
views are from
these American elements, and I think it's wonderful. So
That's neat.
That's awesome. Just going back to just sort of, I have a two-part question, but just going back to like the beginning of setting up and opening the brew pub and then kind of transitioning to where you were, was it difficult understanding the California laws and getting kind of on board of being a brewery at that point? And then if fast forward today, so the second part, what is the San Francisco beer scene like? Because we're outsiders. I've never been, so.
I can open the window. You can take a look. I think what you're asking me with the first part of the question is, well, I'll answer the second one first. Well, because we're just coming off of San Francisco Beer Week right now, and this is the second beer week in the country, right behind Philly. And this year we did over 720 events. I mean, these are events that go up from Santa Rosa all the way almost down to Santa Cruz, just south of San Francisco, and almost out to Sacramento. So it covers a wide swath of land. I was on the original committee that helped organize that, and you have the amount of the people. Well, first of all, you've got these main events that sort of like bookend the whole thing that kind of drove the decision to do SF Beer Week in the middle of February. We have this huge, big double IPA festival down in at the Bistro in Hayward. A lot of East Coast breweries have been competing in that lately. And then you have like the granddaddy of them all. You have the Tornado Barley Wine Festival, which is in San Francisco. It's this big festival, and you get a lot of outside beers there as well. So this, and the other kind of side note is that Dave McLean and I, who works at Magnolia Pub and Brewery, did this thing called Strong Beer Month. We still do it for the month of February, and it kind of drove like wind to do this SF Beer Week. And it's just the way this thing has grown over this year. It really kind of shows you the vibrant community here. As more and more breweries opening up within San Francisco, I think we're up to 12 now, I believe. It's hard. San Francisco is not that cheap to do business in, so there's some struggles with that. But there's more and more breweries that are opening outside in Berkeley, which is right across the bay, and Oakland and Emeryville, and we've got a third brewery that just opened up here around the same time, just a little bit before us here, called Cleophas Quealy, opened by a couple guys from Google, and so. It's definitely it's vibrant, it's long-standing, and then we also like literally a mile and a half from us, we've got Anchor Brewing Company, which is the kind of the start of this whole modern-day craft beer movement back in 1968 when Fritz Maytag bought that. So it's actually going strong. So as far as like the struggles, I think you were asking me about the legal and all that of opening up a brew pub in San Francisco. Brew pubs had already been legal for some time, so we didn't have to change a law or convince anybody to do something that wasn't really happening already. So in that respect, it wasn't a big struggle. It was a struggle in the sense that it's hard to do business in San Francisco. I mean, there's a lot of bureaucracy in place, as you have in a lot of municipalities, and we certainly had our fair share of that. I could, tell you, things that we had to pay for that we didn't know we'd have to pay for when we first started. So,
did people not want you?
Oh no, they always wanted me. No, no, not at all. Absolutely not. People
Wow.
are really accepting about about having craft beer and more of it. The neighborhood was really excited because there really wasn't anything in that area. You had some. You kind of had this .com money that was kind of floating like the higher end restaurants, but you didn't really have a brew pub offering like value meals, quote unquote, to the neighborhood. So I think in a lot of ways that's how we succeeded. We didn't charge people a lot of money for what we were offering. So.
And then even in 2000 when you had opened up, where even with Anchor Steam, being out there, and Stone had been out for a couple years, where there's being in that new area where people still new to craft beer, like were you introducing them basically to the idea of craft beer?
No, not at all. I mean, there was already existing breweries that were in San Francisco, of course, with Anchor. And then there was a couple places right near us. There was a Gordon Biersch. There was Thirsty Bear. There was definitely, you had some places in the East Bay as well. So it was not, we weren't really I think what you're kind of getting at is that educating the public really came from when the cans came out.
Okay.
We started canning in like around 2005, 2006. We did a lot of talking about the can and not the stuff inside, not the beer inside, and so which was great because it was a point of to tell your story. Why are you putting beer in cans, and what's the deal with this and all this? And nobody was doing it. It was like maybe 5 of us back then, so it was a huge.
So basically,
it's probably expensive.
Yeah. So I guess to go off of that, did you? So because they're now kind of going on the opposite end of my question, because there were breweries already intact, did you try to differentiate yourself in any way, or did that didn't come until the cans to kind of turn that crazy dial up?
In terms of
just beers, like did you have like a set of beers that you wanted to come out that were different than Brewery X that wanted to put your
no,
beer
not really. I think we were the interesting thing about a brew pub is that it's really at the heart of it is a restaurant. I mean you're really you have this little twist on it. You have a brewery there, but in terms of like the way you run the machine, there's 1.5 brewers and there's 50 other people working that restaurant, and people are there to eat. And the whole saying is that they come in for the beer, but they come back for the food. So we were having fun. I love experimenting with stuff. I love we came up with one of the first black IPAs out there. When Watermelon Wheat came out, nobody was making that. That was that was
First watermelon beer I ever heard of.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was, so you had these, these strange things that were coming out of our pub, but it wasn't like we were the strange brewery. I mean, we were just kind of making some really quality beers and having, this great fun environment and kind of creating a nice pub-like setting. So.
Yep. I've got a quick question for you, just in terms of numbers and size. How much beer were you making when you started versus how much are you guys making now?
It's insane. It's absolutely insane, and I can't even believe it's happening. I wish I could walk you out in the brewery right now. So when we were brewing at the pub, we brew probably 800 to 900 barrels a year. 800 to 900 barrels a year. So our first year in Cold Spring, like I said before, in 2008, we was only brewed for about half the year. We brewed 1,000 barrels a year. Last year we brewed 71,000 barrels of beer. I mean, that's insane. I mean, that's I can't even believe that this has happened. We've opened up. We're in like 20 states right now. We're soon to launch in New Hampshire, by the way. But your state
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. My power almost went out. No, I'm kidding.
Awesome. No, New Hampshire does not make it easy.
Carla, exactly. I'm sorry, Brian, but your state is a little rough. They don't want you to come in.
No.
They want.
I gotta go. It's very true. Very true.
Left. So it is, and this year we're scheduled to do 100,000 barrels. I mean, but that's just not my story. That's everybody's story. I mean, there's this huge, big craft brewing explosion happening right now, and it's really exciting. I mean, we can't make enough beer.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more markets. We're about to launch in Chicago and Southern California in a few months. And by the way, that was an exclusive. So we're, it's happening to a lot of us, which is going to be which is exciting, but also concerning in a lot of ways. So.
Now, so you mentioned your volume for what you just did in 2014. Were you guys shocked in 2013 when you guys kind of popped into the number 50 spot of the top 50 breweries of production in the United States?
Surprised? I don't even pay attention to that. I mean, when it happened, I was like, oh, that's cool. It wasn't really one of those things that we were kind of like gunning for. We gotta get to number 50. Anything 50. It was it's like. There's a lot of lists out in this world. We all see them. Top IPAs from, below the Mason-Dixon line, whatever it is.
That you have to have.
You have to have them today. And,
now.
And not to put that down because I think it's fun, and we're certainly on them, but I don't like lose sleep over it. But yeah, it's great. I mean, it's kind of fun. You become like I'll tell you one thing though. When you break that 50, you kind of become the hot girl at the prom. I mean, you get a lot of phone calls. You got a lot of distributors calling you. They were very interested in you, and every day, every week, we get requests for, hey, come distribute our beer in Tokyo or Tennessee or something. So it's flattering.
Are you selling internationally?
No, not yet, but I definitely want to do that. I think that would be a great thing. I think there's a underserved market that's slowly being realized for craft brewers. Look, America sells in the outside world, and I think there's some key markets out there like Japan, like Sweden, like Germany, and England that want this beer. The key is how do you handle it? You're sending hoppy beers across the ocean. They have a tendency not to do so well when they've had a little age on them. So there's certainly challenges with that.
Now, along with all that, do you, at least in New England, we see a lot of collaboration beers between brewers, both small and big. Have you had any collaborations that have worked? Do you have any in planning? That was actually a question from the chat. I just stole. I don't give the credit to him right now.
Dark Side.
Dark Side, of course.
Yeah.
I love collaborations. I think, I know collaborations are ubiquitous, but I think it's like a really exciting thing to do, and I think the challenge is doing it differently every single time. We've done collaborations. We did collaboration with Nicosi Brewing Company up in Eugene, Oregon. I don't know if you get that beer. I don't think you get that beer out there right now. Call it Allies Win the War. We just did it. We did our pumpkin collaboration is with Elysian Brewing Company,
Nice.
with Dick Cantwell, who's a really good friend of mine. We did a collaboration with an oyster company. There's a local oyster company up in Tamaulipas Bay, just north of San Francisco, called Hog Island Oyster Company. So I made an oyster stout, and we actually used their sweetwater oysters in the boil. I've got a collaboration going on with a rock and roll band right now. An indie band that's going to probably come out in the next year and a half. So, what do you do there? What's that challenge, and how is that going to be fun? So, super. I think it's just great. It's an extension of really what happens in the industry. I mean, it's a collaborative effort. I mean, we share ingredients, information, technology. Equipment, all the time. The brewery that we're building right now, it's 100,000 square feet. It's a big brewery, but this could be the house that Mitch Steele and Matt Brindleson helped build. Because anytime I had a question, I'd call those guys up and hey, what are you doing here? What are you doing there? So I think it's just an example of how we all kind of get together under the big tent of craft beer.
But that's cool, and you mentioned you did the oyster collaboration too, and I think every year we're looking for like the next. Okay, what's this going to be the year of? I think over the past at least 1 or 2 years, at least here, we've seen a lot of collaborations of breweries and like food places, which I think is super cool. Over here, we do a lot of coffee, a lot of oysters, obviously being up in Maine and the seacoast. But I think that, Carla, Sean, do you see the same kind of trend? Is people kind of like teaming up with restaurants to do collaborations as opposed to breweries?
Yeah, especially even if it's a house or like a guest beer. If you collaborate with Buffalo Wild Wings and you're gonna get an in on possibility of 900 restaurants, it's sort of like
we're not sponsored by Buffalo Wild Wings, mind you, everybody.
Really?
So
no, but that's like a prime example of like an ultimate like 3-point shoot swish. Goes right in.
Nice.
I want to throw.
No ESPN commentary on this podcast. It's like swish, you're good. Like,
boom, boom goes the dynamite.
Yeah. I'm not letting that go. Sorry.
You mentioned something that I want to ask a slightly twist on a possible controversial question. If the opportunity came up next week, would you still do another collaboration with Elysian?
It would really depend. I know it's kind of like I know when I said Elysian, I was like, oh, shit, they're gonna ask me.
I was too busy.
I don't know, man. It's a really weird question. This is a whole other topic, the business of beer. How is this all going to work? But in the end, I think. Look, I'm really close to Dick Cantwell. He's a really good dude, and I think that I probably would consider it. Absolutely. I don't know, but it would be a different situation. He probably wouldn't be, part of. He wouldn't be working for Anheuser-Busch. He would have been on his own, like he was. So it's an interesting thing. I don't know. I'm gonna try to swim out of this question.
No, totally cool. So what about the Super Bowl ad? No, I'm kidding.
I'll answer. By the way, I'll talk about anything. I'm not.
No. Sorry.
I got my PR people right now holding signs and saying, "Don't talk about that." No, I'm kidding. There's no.
They're like this.
Yeah.
They have the internet cable. They're like, sorry.
It actually goes back to the canning thing. In Maine, we are seeing a ridiculous proliferation of canning right now. I did the math the other day, and about 20% of our breweries are offering at least one of their beers in cans, which is pretty cool. And I just wanted to know, well, first, actually, a comment. I was talking to Luke Livingston from Baxter Brewing earlier today, and he actually said that by the time he opened his brewery, he didn't have to fight off all those negative stereotypes about cans. So cheers to you for actually being one of the people who did do all that fighting. But I just wanted to know kind of what you thought about, the kind of, I don't know, the can revolution, or, just the fact that it's really becoming a lot more accepted.
I think it's awesome. I mean, obviously, I'm going to say that because I'm putting my beer in cans, but I mean to see it blow up and to see how many breweries are getting into it, I think is remarkable. I think that when New Belgium and Sierra Nevada and now Sam Adams, who said he would never, Greg said or Jim would said he would never get into it. Are putting their beer in cans. I think this whole package has legs to it, and then so what's going to happen? I think and it's already happening in a lot of ways. Is that the concept of drinking beer out of a can it's going away. It's not a novelty. It's like it's another package that this beer comes in. So there are people, of course, who don't want to drink out of cans. I personally would not drink some of our beer out of cans. We make a beer called, Monk's Blood, which is dark Belgian strong beer that has all these unique ingredients: dried mission figs, vanilla beans. It's aged on oak. I wouldn't drink that out of a can. I would drink that out of, I'd put that in a nice glass and enjoy it that way. So,
you think someone will ever come up with a cork and caged can?
I think
Try to find something to do that with right now.
I saw one company, it might have been 10 Barrel actually out of Bend, Oregon, who actually had this one beer and it was like upside down, or they must have dipped it in wax, and it looked, I would never ever do that. I mean, that would look,
it's like, how do you open this?
Peeling like wax off and getting your beard, and you're like, what the heck is going on here? This is nuts.
That's awesome.
No, I don't know. If I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Do you have any exclusive beers at your restaurants? At the restaurant, rather?
We're always,
just tapping.
We're rotating beers all the time. We're doing this strong beer month right now with Magnolia, so we have about 10 taps at the pub, and 6 of those are all over 8.5% alcohol. So it's this kind of crazy time. Kind of the real quick story on it is that we've been doing this since I think 2002 or 3. Typically February was the slowest month of the year in the restaurant industry, so Dave and I got together from Magnolia and we said, hey, let's create this strong beer month. And so the idea is that you get a little card, which is a concert ticket, because we recreate all these famous old rock and roll classic rock albums, and so all the beers are on there, and once you finish, get them all clicked off and you finish them all, you get to keep the glass. It's like the most expensive glass you'll ever get. So
nice. I was just saying in our little private chat, strong beer month, and then in the same month is a beer week. That's crazy.
Yeah, so exactly.
I don't feel bad for you guys, but that sounds tough. It sounds tough out there.
I'm a little bit of a shell of a man right now. This all ended on Monday.
You're there, but you're not there.
Exactly.
He's got a spare liver that he swaps out every day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just like rotates through. We just catching up on some of the folks in the chat. I have 2 different chat questions if I could throw them at you. First off, came from Flanderis. He's a follower of the show that we have here and participates every now and then. Goes back to one of the comments you mentioned a while back at the beginning when you were contract brewing with your friend in Minnesota. Did you ever get backlash from either the brewing community or even customers over the concept of contract brewing?
Yeah, absolutely. There's this whole thing in any other industry, but the brewing industry, it's okay if you don't own what you make it on. And it seems like we, as an industry, always think it's important that you own your kettles, your tanks. And I get that. I completely get that. But yeah, we had to do a lot of explaining to do. But we're out there. It's not a brew it and forget it kind of thing. I'm out there all the time. We have people that go back and forth. We've got samples that are shipped out. There's a huge, we're like we do 90% of the brewing in Cold Spring right now. So we're heavily involved with it. It's not like, contract brewing got a bad rap in the late 90s when a lot of people got into this because they saw the success of craft beer, and so a lot of labels were just created. And so, marketing company X would go to brewery Y and take a label they created and slap it on the same beer that was being made at that brewery. And so there's a lot of dumbed down beer back then. I mean, I think if you look at any of our beers, I think they're super unique and they stand on their own. And we're unapologetic about it. We always, praise, where we're brewing right now in Cold Spring. We don't hide from it at all.
Does that contract fail back then was it a result of the people doing it for money, or was it a result of them coming up with an idea of a flavor of a beer that wasn't ready for the market, or either collaborating with brewers that were just saying, okay, you want to make this beer, you want it exactly this way, we're going to do that no matter if it comes out good or bad?
I think it was just, it's like anything, we live in a sort of free market society here, and people can do whatever you want. And I think they saw the success of craft beer, and it saw it as an opportunity. I don't even know if they were filling a void that was, in terms of flavor, but I think they were definitely seeing a way they could be successful.
I'm gonna take it. Are you done with those chat questions?
No, just one more.
Okay, go for it.
There's one more chat question that we have right now from BN Darkside again. And the trend that's sort of happened in the last 3 years was strong powerhouse West Coast breweries looking to expand the market East Coast, and by doing that, they've created a brewery on the east of Mississippi, with Asheville North Carolina being one of the hot spots. Did you guys ever think about having a second location on the East Coast, and did Asheville ever come up in a possibility?
No, it never did.
Okay.
We didn't even think about it. I mean, we kind of have an East Coast brewery right now. We're working. We're right in the middle of the country, and in terms of the shipping lanes out towards the East Coast, it's actually not a bad place to be. How we work, the Cold Spring Brewery into the whole big picture. We're still trying to work that out. We're trying to figure out how is that going to work. We're going to have a certain amount of capacity here. We have this opportunity with having Cold Spring to be able to still, make beer and ship out. But we're going to still be in Cold Spring for at least another year and a half, just because we can't turn the ship. We can't, turn that off that quickly.
So I have a totally random question because I have, as you can see behind me, I have a lot of records behind me. What's on your turntable right now?
Actually, right now, what do I have here? Let me take a look here.
It's a new segment of the show. I like to call "What's on Your Turntable."
I have the band.
What's in your house?
Ooh, the band.
Nice.
So, yeah, I got it. I've gotten back into the. I mean, I was a kid growing up. I mean, I'm like 70 years old, so I had records growing up. That's a joke.
Yeah.
But I got back into playing records again. I just like the concept of putting an album on, having a beer with your friends, and at some point you got to get up, turn the album over, and it's a deliberative act, to enjoy music. And Carla, it's a very impressive record collection you have there.
Yeah, I did not enjoy moving it up 4 flights of stairs to my last apartment, so I have toned down on my record collecting recently because it's very heavy.
I thought those were Beer Advocate magazines.
Oh, no. They're on record. And
Every episode, every magazine, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'll hop in real quick. So we have a couple more questions, and we want to let you go because it's actually still, you can probably see somewhat of a sunlight out there. Maybe? No? I don't know what it's like in the West Coast.
No, the sun just went down. It's beautiful.
Okay, good. So we got all night. No. So you talked about just a little bit about your black IPA, which was one of my very first craft beers of mine. I'm also 70, but one of my very first craft beers was Back in Black, and over on this side of the Mississippi, we call it black IPA. Use what you yourself call it the black IPA as well, but we also want to know, we've heard of the Cascadian Dark Ale, the black IPA. What else did you have there, Sean?
Escadidian.
Oh, Escadidian Dark Ale.
So that was more the joke one. So.
And actually, we haven't been able to ask this question because I don't even know if we have, because we have the brewer of such a prominent black IPA. What's your terms? Like, what do you consider a black IPA?
I call it a black IPA. I think it's just very descriptive of what you're about to drink. I think Cascadian Dark Ale, I think that's interesting. When I go to Oregon and Washington, I speak that vernacular, and it's tongue in cheek because I know the people I'm talking to. But we were probably, I think, one of the first breweries to put that beer in a package, actually, I think. And it started off like as just as a pub beer. Actually, was made by Jesse Hauk, who used to be the head brewer at the pub before he went down to Golden Road in Southern California.
Huge brewery.
Yeah, he's so yeah. I mean, that beer's it's phenomenal. I think it's great. It's got a lot of people like it. But black IPA. That's what I call it. I call it a black IPA.
Amen. And that's the end of the show. You heard it here first. No. And so now we finally have someone with authority that could end the discussion. Hear that, East Coast? Come on. Stop talking about it in the forums.
With Vermont Pub and Brewery, we're big fans of black IPA and kind of the origin of the name and sort of part of the debate of maybe where black IPAs might have originated. So I guess we hold a little special place in our...
That was with Greg Noonan, right? Is that
exactly?
Yeah. So I mean, I get that. I mean, I also know that if you're a linguist and you say Black India Pale Ale, it's like what are you saying? Black pale? What is it? But I think IPA is indicative of a style, and it can have a range of color in it. And I think that once you tell people it's a black IPA, it's really it's telegraphing what that beer is. Cascadian Dark Ale, it's never going to catch on. Except if you're in Oregon and Washington, and I love you people up there.
Yeah. Most of our listeners are out from out there, and they're just like this guy.
He's like, this beer.
Yeah. We use a lot of groans and sighs from the Northwest just now. No.
God.
Yeah. Carla, do you want to ask one more final question?
Sure. So we've heard, a couple things. You've already given us a couple exclusives about, different states you're going to and whatnot. But are there any new beers on the horizon? Like, what's next?
So that's why we got in this business, right? Because we like to make new beers and we like to have fun. I love brewing. I think that brewing is a marriage between science and cooking, and I love to cook. But we're actually developing a beer that will be the first beer out of this new brewery down here. We're in an old Kellogg's factory, by the way. This place is huge.
Nice.
They used to make Pop-Tarts down here, so
yes.
We're going to come out with a new beer that's sort of an homage to this entire factory. They also made Raisin Bran and stuff like that. And then
s'mores Pop-Tart beer would be fun.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to write that one down right now. So we've got. We're about to release Monk's Blood again, which we haven't had it out for a couple of years. We are coming out with a new beer. Actually, it's going to be a relaunch of a beer that we have out right now, and I actually haven't really talked about this publicly yet. It's called Bitter American. It's changing a little bit. So it's our session. It's called a session pale ale, and we're actually making it into. It's essentially a session IPA. So we're tweaking that. And that will be released in the next couple of weeks, actually. So it'll be a new package.
Very cool.
It'll be a new. I wish I could tell you some more, but I think my business partners would. What did you say? But
how about what's the graphics going to look like? How about that?
Okay. I'll tell you what. That's a great question, Sean. So Ham, who's the space chimp on the Bitter American label, when we were trying to figure out who was the most bitter American in this world, we were thinking we realized it was probably Ham the space chimp, who was the first American in space. He was plucked out of the jungles of Africa. He was trained to push buttons, and then strapped to a rocket and shot up in the air against his will. And he came back to Earth, and he lived out his days in a hospital somewhere, and he had a very nice life. But we thought that he was the bitterest American. So what this next version of the story is a continuation of that story. It's a continuation of Ham the space chimp. So.
Cool.
That's all I can tell you now, but I think
that's awesome, though.
It's the beer. Just so you know, you bitter American fans out there, beer is very similar in terms of the malting of this beer. We're still using Golden Promise, which is one of my favorite malts out of Simpsons, out of the UK. It provides a great malt backbone to the beer without giving it sweetness, which I'm not a big fan of in IPAs. But I've changed the hopping around. If anything, it'll be a little bit more intense in terms of the dry hop. I'm super excited. It's still going to be 4.4% alcohol session IPA, and we're changing it to session IPA, the name. So
nice.
I'm super excited.
Very cool. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
So I love the fact that you have a Rock'em Sock'em robot up top there.
But Sean's good with segues. That's a good one.
Well, that stems from our collaboration with Dick Cantwell at Elysian. When he and I, the whole story behind the pumpkin beer is, the name of it's called He Said. So, and it's he said, the he said she said. So it's like we couldn't really figure out how we met each other. So we have different versions of that story, and that involves like playing Rock'em Sock'em Robots during Seattle Beer Week a long time ago. And also, we're not quite sure of how we came up with the idea of the collaboration, because yes, there were beers involved, and so that's why I think when we sent out the press kits, we set out little like thumb Rock'em Sock'em Robots to bloggers and whatnot. So yeah, that's
Nice.
fun.
That's awesome. Just we're as bloggers and doing the podcast, we're very big into social media and whatnot. Our guest last week was one of the founders of Untapped, and we used Untapped, and I'm sure that you guys are quite familiar with it, because I just did a quick check-in of just how many check-ins that you guys have on Untapped, and it's over about 495,000 total check-ins on
Wow.
Untapped, which is quite amazing.
Yes,
And you may not have known that number, but will there be a party for 500,000 check-ins?
I didn't even know we were that close, but I'm making a note right now, and
Awesome.
I'm going to make that happen.
Good stuff, Sean.
Yeah,
And,
Sean, look at you coming out with some PR moves there.
You're no good. This is no good. Save those for the podcast, Shano. Or Sean today.
The other part for being on the podcast, and Brian, I'll say, has actually turned me onto it. If even before we start, is actually listening to other podcasts and seeing what they do, and we sort of feel that because we do an hour, we do beers that we like, and there's no advertising. We kind of have a different show, but one of the shows that we pay homage to is sort of the Brewing Network, and that's, I believe, really like close stone's throw away from where you guys are.
Yeah.
We used to be on Monday nights, and we did it from 8 to 9 o'clock, and we had some people that said at 8:59, if you guys are going over, even if it's great, I'm switching and going to the Brewing Network for Monday nights, and we're like, okay,
Oh, wow.
there's got to be something going on. So we've listened to that bit. Can you listen a little bit about your connection with Brewing Network and sort of how that affects your local scene?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's kind of a really interesting and in a phenomenon that's occurred with those guys. I mean, Justin Crosley and JP and the crew down there. I mean, I was first on that show, in his his garage in Martinez, and then they moved to another studio, and now they have a pub with the studio attached in downtown Concord. It's nuts. And then Justin is. He's just a great guy. He's like, it's kind of like the Howard Stern in a lot of ways of beer radio. I mean, when I first sat down in that studio, and I had never met them before, I immediately got it. I was like, this is, we had beers afterwards, and I said, I totally get what you're doing here, and I decided to advertise and support it. We've been supporting it since I was on that show with commercials, and they have beer festivals out here. They just had their Winter Beer Fest, and we were the glass sponsor for that event. I think it's great because I think their reach is incredible, and it also goes beyond that to just beer drinkers. I mean, brewers are really into it, and I think it just comes back to the fact of the matter that brewers are. We got egos, and it's like, Justin puts us on the air, and we get to be little rock stars on the radio for a little bit, and
Totally.
sit around and talk about beer and tell dick jokes.
and Carla, you hear that? It's acceptable.
They're talking about dick jokes, something that we're not talking about.
Yes, finally. It took us 106 episodes.
Yeah, they only keep me around here to minimize the dick jokes and the burp jokes.
Keep it down, yeah. You need that, Carla. Your balance, it's good. Stay there. This beer industry is it's a big sausage party. It's a male-dominated sport. Thank you.
But yes, yeah. I mean, big shout outs, and obviously their podcast is each episode 6 times longer than ours, but it's still a great.
Yeah.
It's a great friggin'. It's a
And,
great.
and the amazing thing about it is that it's like it starts off really good, and then it just degrades. It's like watching a plane crash. I mean,
In the
there's
best
so
way,
much
yeah.
alcohol consumed, and by then you're just like, blah, blah, blah.
Oh jeez. But it's kind of like this, that they have the person that can speak well, Carla.
Yes.
They have the people that know a lot of beer. Norm in this case. I mean, everyone knows beer, but it's like they each have like their own little niche of things, which is cool. But
Yeah.
no, and that's cool to see that a brewery has such a good connection to a podcast, because it's always good to have podcast love, because it's good stuff.
Well, I mean, what I like about what you guys are doing, I like the video format. I think that's really interesting, because I think sometimes you see these you see these people, or you hear them on the radio, but you don't really you get to know them a little bit better. I think it's more communal this way. I dig it. So.
Appreciate it, yeah, and we're gonna keep on going. So maybe in episode 206 we'll have you back on, and we'll see if you still like the idea. We are running short. I again don't want to take up much of your time, but we have the final question, which I bet you've heard before, and if you haven't, let us know. We kind of take I can say John, is it John Daly? No, who's the John Daly, the golfer? John Stewart. He's only on the Daily Show for so long, but we've taken a pen out of his cap, and we asked the moment of Zen question. But ours is in the brewing way. We want to ask the brewer. You have obviously years of experience, and if someone were to come up to you today or tomorrow at your brewery and say to you, "I want to start a brewery," what would the top 3-4 things of advice you would give to that person if they said, "I want to start a brewery now"?
Well, first of all, I would say, how much money do you have? And they would tell me the amount, and I'd say, that's not enough. I'd say, give me your wallet, and I would go up to the top of the roof, and I would toss it off and say, it's going to be a lot less painful to do it that way. That's a joke.
I love that. That was a joke. Like, come on.
No, but and that's only from experience, because when we opened up our place, we didn't have enough money, and we struggled. But what I would say is, first of all, I'd say, well, what kind of brewery do you want to open up? I'd say if it's a brew pub, I'd say, do you have a restaurant person? Because, and I know I'm not really answering the 1, 2, 3, 4 way, but I would say, thank you, Sean. I would say, if you want to open a brew pub, and because a lot of times people are all focused on the beer, it's about the beer. We got to make the beer right. It's got to be great. But a brew pub is a restaurant at the end of the day. I mean, it runs day and night. You have employees. You got food. You got to deal with all that stuff. So be sure that you had a good restaurant person with you that has managed restaurants and run restaurants. If you want to get into producing beer, and distributing it, I would say, make sure that you know your business well. Make sure you have enough money to stay in business. Make sure that you've got enough working capital. I think that that's the thing that we all have this, like, really, especially right now, and there's so many new breweries that are coming online right now. You need to know how to run a business. It's not you get into it for the romance of craft beer, making beer at home probably, or you worked at a brewery, but there's a whole business you have to be worried about. And really at the top of the list is, like, can you make good beer? Is your beer good? And if it's not good, then you better make it good, because you're not going to survive. I mean, you got to kind of run on all those cylinders, and especially if you're distributing. I mean, I think the way that brewers are going to be successful in this kind of growing craft beer, what we're calling the bubble right now, is how well you manage your business, how well you work with your distributor partners, how you deal with all that, because it's going to get more and more crowded. It already is crowded out there. And I will tell you, I think that there will be some of us who aren't going to make it, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. But I don't think anybody's going to stop drinking craft beer. I think that, it's like when I was growing up, there was like Wonder Bread. That was it. Now you go down the bread aisle. There are so many different flavors. There was Folgers coffee. Now there's all these different coffees out there. I mean, nobody is going to go back to drinking or eating, bad coffee or bread or beer. I mean, this is not going anywhere else. So.
Wow. Satisfied with the answer, Sean.
Thank you, Brian.
Carla. Because we also reflect on the answer. We reflect on the reflection and kind of, yes, that was.
Let's all
hug now. Let's just
and just going back to the number of guests that we've had on, nobody's ever answered that the same way. So it's pretty cool to hear.
And if someone ever says Wonder Bread in that answer again, I'm gonna say, hey, already taken, new answer, new answer.
Try again.
Someone listened to 106 and stole that answer. Because we do have a lot of local brewers that come prepared with their answer. We say don't come prepared. We're gonna ask you a question at the end of it. But that was very, very good. And we're collecting them for a soon to be released encyclopedia of podcast Zen moments for sure.
That's awesome.
But yeah.
A quickie, just about how people can reach you guys. You know, what social media are you on? Is there anything that you kind of want to give a shout out to? Any events coming up?
Yeah, well, as far as social media goes, I mean, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 21st Amendment. We, of course, have a Facebook page like the rest of the entire world, which you can do a search for that, the 21st Amendment Brewery. You can follow me, Sean O'Sullivan, on Instagram and on Twitter. On my Instagram thing, and that's SHAUN and then O'Sullivan all the way across, OSULLIVAN. I don't on my Instagram. I don't really do a lot of beer stuff. I really kind of pull the curtain back and kind of do. I have a lot of pictures of food and my son and traveling because I travel a lot. It's like my way to kind of re-engage my photography, itch that I used to scratch a long time ago. Like the current events right now. I mean, we're like I said before, we're knee deep right now in the middle of Strong Beer Month, awesome. And just coming off of San Francisco Beer Week. So, that's what's going on.
Cool. Any other questions, Sean Jansen?
No, I just want to throw it back at you. Do you have any questions for us?
Well, I'm actually very concerned about all of you. I know you've been going through a rough winter there. My dog just started shedding today, so winter is officially over here on the West Coast. It's really interesting because from you're all inside right now, and it seems like maybe you've been inside for days. Yeah. But we've seen kind of a little dip in sales out there just because of I think the storm. So it's really having an impact on
I would say Boston in particular has been having trouble in the retail side because people literally can't go out to get what they need. There's been a little bit of a pushback for people to actually go back to their local businesses, and try, because they've missed out on, X number of days of what would normally have been fuller sales. So that's kind of interesting that you can see that all the way out there, though. That's interesting.
Yeah, that wasn't a joke. You actually saw something like that happen. I thought you were joking again. But
no. I have a very kind of dry sense of humor. It's just. I guess. I mean, I'm just interested because I haven't really had a chance to talk to anybody back there, and here I'm talking to, 3 people that are, back there, and I know in Boston's been hit pretty hard, but it's just insane. The reports there's another storm coming again.
Yeah.
I think
so. It's nice to see that the lights are on.
Yeah.
It's nice to see the lights are on. Your turntable is not mired in snow and ice. And,
my microphone turned to a snowball, but other than that, it's kind of what are you gonna do? It's tough stuff here. No, what was I gonna say? Yeah, because it's cool seeing on Twitter. You see, you can go to the grocery store and it looks like it's Armageddon. The bread aisle, calling back to bread, completely
gone.
Get
to the bread.
Yeah, which is weird. But now on Twitter, you see beer stores saying, "Come get your snow beer." So that's pretty cool. To be like, "Come now, it's snowing. We need you to set. We have stock coming soon." So
I want a local brewer to take and use their water as snow, and they're just filling up their kettle with snow, doing the Snowmageddon beer.
Melt it, boil it.
Sean's got ideas. This is a good one. This is good.
I like that.
But yeah, no, it's nuts here, and it's. A lot of people are talking about it, which is okay, first of all, we're in New England, but nowadays it's okay, well, deal with it. It's not Minnesota, though. Minnesota's usually, or Wisconsin's usually worse. But now, all of a sudden, they kind of just picked us up and moved us that way.
Yeah.
The toughest part is what I'll say, and my wife and I were kind of talking about it on Sunday, is that the snow banks are so high that we're actually shoveling snow higher than what our head is. So you have to kind of pick it up and throw it and hope that the wind doesn't come back and get you with that snow. And we're not really used to that where we are.
No, that's insane.
No, but not like banks where I have a snow fort. I live in a snow fort. I could almost call it an igloo, but I shovel off my roof.
That'd be awesome.
I can't see my neighbor's house when I'm standing in my driveway.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nothing good about that. But so on that very somber note, how we're all dying over here. No. I do
Well,
want
it's
to
good
thank you
to see everybody's alive and happy
yeah,
for the most
totally.
part.
But I mean, you may want to check back with us and I hope you had a good time on the show. And like what we're gonna do now is we're gonna talk a little bit about our local beer week. So we'll let you go. But unless you have anything else, I can't thank you enough for making the time to come
Thank
on the
you so
show.
much.
It means a lot to have a West
No,
Coast brewer.
It's great. I mean, the great thing about craft beer, like I said, is that we each have a story, and the opportunity to kind of go on a program like yours and tell the folks out there about that and take questions and have fun. It's about having fun too. That's not all serious.
Totally.
So this has been fantastic, and you guys, thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate that.
Geez, we'll raise a can to you because we all have them.
Raise my can. I have one sip left.
So I always save the last sip, just like Julia Stiles said once. All right, so thank you, Sean O'Sullivan, and we'll let you go. And cheers to you guys in future success.
All right, take care.
Thanks.
Cheers.
So who caught that "Save the Last Dance" line at the end there? You're welcome. It's Sean. Yeah, it's good stuff. All right, so Carla, do you want to stick around for a couple minutes?
Yeah, sure.
So we're still live, and that was cool because I don't even know the last time we had a West Coast brewer on, but that was badass.
It's been a while.
And it's the first time with the same name almost. So.
If you look at the beer map, Brian, we haven't had many West Coast breweries on, and so that would be a good trivia question if we got someone out there.
Stone, Firestone Walker, Fireman's Brew, Sierra Nevada.
That's it?
I think so. No, that's me counting in my head. From California, but yeah. So let's talk about it, Sean. What are we here to talk about? Let's do let's see what we got because big week. San Francisco came off their beer week, and we let them have it because coming up this week.
I'll tell you, 700 events.
What?
Boy, that would be
700?
a full-time job, and I would be hiring. It would be.
I thought you were talking about this week.
So that's for San Francisco.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about.
No, like if we had to do that in Portsmouth.
Yeah.
I wonder what the census data for population is because I was looking at census data for Portsmouth. Do you know that Portsmouth is in the top 15 of overall number of people, but they're like in 9 or 10, where like Manchester has approximately so all the census data that's out is 2013 data, so they haven't announced 2014 data yet, but it's still relative. So Manchester was like the top city. With like 100,000 people.
In New Hampshire.
Concord is up there really high. Nashua is up there really high.
Right.
Dover and Rochester kind of help fill out that top 5. But Portsmouth is 21,000 people.
Right, and I think there's
800,000 plus.
And I think from what I heard at the hotel, there's 24,000 restaurant seats in Portsmouth.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's only 21,000 residents.
Yeah, I mean,
which is
hat to
like,
you on that one. But
it's crazy.
Yeah. So leading up to it, what's going on this coming week, Shano? Because it's big week.
I'm really excited for it. The 6th annual Portsmouth Beer Week starts on Saturday. There's some pre-events on Friday night. There's a couple pre-events, but the initial event, the big event for the week is the Seacoast Winter Brew Fest, where Brian helped me found it 4 years ago. This is the Brian and Ryan, which is kind of funny, and Ian threw in some help into that. But we founded sort of like the premier brew fest in New Hampshire, and it's actually lasted for 4 years. And the reason why I say premier is that small number of tickets available. Really, the sky's the limit on the beers available for it. I don't know if you've noticed it, but there is an Allagash beer I've never even heard of.
Which beer?
Yeah, Madame something?
Yeah.
Madame, maybe something?
I'll get that to you in 1 second, but I will kind of talk a little bit through, if you don't mind, about some of the events that are going on.
Of course.
So for me, I have 2 premier events. I say premier because like I'm basing a lot of time on it, where the 2 sessions of the Portsmouth Seacoast Winter Brew Fest is huge.
Hell yeah.
But the other part is that for the 6th year in a row, we found a kick-ass documentary and create an event around it that's going to be amazing. The documentary that we found is called Beer Runners, which is about a group out of Philly that were basically running to kind of basically save their lives a little bit. Like they're just out there doing beer runs for health and fitness, and kind of creating a community around it for helping people out in their whatever troubles they may have and whatnot. So it's a very inspirational beer documentary. And I didn't know this when I was going after booking this actual activity, but this will be the first time this movie's actually played as a premiere in front of a audience.
Oh,
Cool. That's cool.
Other than like their own network and family group of people.
Where is it again?
So this is the first outside viewing of it.
Where is that going to be?
That's actually going to be at Red Hook Brewery.
Nice.
We're starting at 10 o'clock. There's a fun run around Peas, and then you end up at the Red Hook Brewery, get a free beer, and come and watch the movie. And there's a cost of $12, but 100% of the ticket sales goes to the Pan Mass Challenge.
That's awesome.
So
Good stuff.
It's all about donation, having fun, watching a movie with like-minded folks, and just having a really good time.
And
so I'm pretty pumped about the movie.
Yeah.
And the preview is available on PortsmouthBeerWeek.com if you haven't been able to see it yet.
Hell yeah. And it's awesome that finally we're getting some good running events in the week. It's cool.
Yeah, when you look at it, going around Peas is almost one of the best fun runs that you could do, because
that's where the Red Hook race is anyway in May, which is good. Good stuff.
No matter what your speed is, your ability, you don't have to worry about traffic. Now, we have snow, but on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, there's not going to be really any cars. You just run down the middle of the street, so it's not even really that big of a deal. One of the other cool things, if you like to be to brew at a production facility, Red Hook's throwing together a enter to win to be a guest brewer at their at the brewery on their smaller system, which is a 15-barrel system, and you can enter to win at any of their events, and they'll be picking someone, I think, by March 8th, just to kind of give enough time to collect names.
Awesome.
There's going to be all sorts of different releases at Red Hook. There's the different beers that Earth Eagle has announced: Nocturnal American Stout, Backhead Cabin Imperial Porter,
Sour Sarah Wednesday. Come on, get
Sour
that.
Sarah Wednesday, John Paul Agnes, which is an apple. Aged in an apple brandy barrel. William Wallace, aged in a rye whiskey barrel.
Nice.
And for my favorite, which was I brewed with Butch, was Wormhole Verte 2.0, which is an absinthe style. So anyone who had it beforehand, come check it out again, because it's going to be different. It's totally. It's different.
Good stuff.
Just some of the things that we've done for the last 4 or 5 years. The fourth annual Clash of IPAs on Tuesday night at TJ's.
Yep. And that basically was it 5 years ago? Did you start that in the first year or the second year?
Well, what's the format of that?
Third.
So it's TJ's. You know where TJ's is, obviously, and it's IPA takeover.
Nice.
And that event single-handedly put TJ's on the map as a craft beer, not necessarily destination, but a place that you might not have thought of craft beer. Now you go there, and because of that event, it's nothing but awesome beers on tap. Sure, they'll have Bud Light because it's like a sports bar, but the taps are just as good as any other place in town, which is great.
That's awesome.
But yeah, and then
I like seeing more restaurants and more places get involved and stuff like that. That's one of the things we saw with the Portland Beer Week too, is that you get these places that you wouldn't normally think would host an event, and they step up and do cool stuff. So that's pretty.
I bumped into today Errol and Pete from Stoneface, and they're pumped about the Brewfest because they're bringing their double IPA, the Russian Imperial Stout, and what's cool about the Brewfest is now there's 2 VIPs this time. So if you can't make the VIP in the morning, VIP at night. Ever heard of it? I think it's the first time there's ever been 2 VIPs.
Never heard of it. First time.
Pretty badass. You heard it here first.
Ever.
We didn't hear it here first. You saw it probably somewhere else. but we're
and even in turn with that is that Spunny Nose, Great Rhythm, and Stoneface did a collaboration beer for an East Coast Common.
yes, which I heard was
And that will be
badass.
available at the Brewfest.
Nice.
They've never collaborated before together, so this is a great new collaboration. There will be a release of it at the Coat of Arms, which also includes a never had before barley wine from Stoneface on a cask.
What, Carla, get down here.
Oh yeah.
How about that?
I'm
Monday
volunteering.
night.
So.
And
Monday
the
night.
best part
cool.
is that event is in collaboration with a live Seacoast Beverly Lab podcast from the Coat of Arms with the crew.
With the crew, and live right now means if you're in the audience, you'll hear it. You might hear it on MP3 later, but it basically interviews with everybody that is there, including the guy that runs the beer down there, Rob, who we're talking about single-handedly changing things. Rob flipped the Coat of Arms on his freaking head, and it is like it's always been the place to go. But Carla, I mean, you've been down there recently. You'll agree the whole cast lineup they've changed. Like they have shaken that place up, and it's awesome, better than ever. It's great.
Yeah, they're doing some cool stuff.
Yeah.
Talking about stepping up, he has an event almost every single night of the week.
Awesome.
Includes I think 4 or 5 casks from the Throwback Night, which is always a killer there. Yep. There is a cider night that he has now with that's going to include North County, yeah,
from Rollinsford.
Rollinsford. Yeah. So that's going to be some great local cider.
Totally.
I believe the second Saturday of the week he actually has a 2014 KBS tapping, which is going to be nicely aged. In addition to him stepping up, I'd like to tell you that there's a post on the front page about the New Hampshire Beer Bus / Granite State Growler tours. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's got 9 different tours, and if is a great combination of all these different places that you're going to. And I'm gonna tell you one that's probably gonna say, wow, how do you make it happen? But on Sunday, March 1st, he's got a brunch that kind of starts at Whim, the craft beer cafe in Portsmouth that we all love. But it's going to be a trip to go to Deciduous, which is in Brian's hometown.
Yeah.
Right, or town right now. We're waiting to meet David Sikulski and see what's going on for Deciduous Brewing Company.
SBL podcast guest number 1.
Number 1.
Yes, guest number 1. But that's pretty amazing of that they're not open yet, but they've been able to create a collaboration event where that they're going to be going to visit David, check out what the status is, and sort of talk about what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, because there's no other way unless you happen to be friends with them on Facebook. There's not many known facts about what's going on there. There is a physical box building there, but what's inside? I mean, that's just good stuff right there. I mean, to be able to get that kind of inside, and as we all know, Dave could be kind of a shy guy, but to sort of welcome a whole odd group of us people from in there, that's gonna be good stuff. And for Whim, I mean, Whim, Deciduous, Granite Bus, boom, out of the park, swish, as Sean would say, swish,
boom,
boom.
Nothing but net.
3 point.
and not to diminish anything else that's on the list. There's a great number of things on the list here. I think it's around about 35 different events. Yep. It ranges anywhere from 2 to 3 events a day to 5 or 6 things in a day.
Can I give a quick shout out to one that I just got an email for?
Go right ahead.
Blue Mermaid. They do the brunch every year, hotter than hell brunch. And the menu for this looks friggin' ridiculous if you like hot foods. So this is it's also Sunday, I believe. The same. No, it's February. Yeah, it's this Sunday. No, it's not. It's the
first Sunday.
It is Sunday. First Sunday. Sorry.
It's 22nd.
Yep. 22nd. So there's 4 courses and one. I mean, I'll just read one. Painkiller French toast. It's pig's fly challah bread battered in coconut, pineapple, orange, and spiced rum with a jalapeno pineapple syrup. I thought it's all one word. Syrup paired with Belgian stout from Spunny Nose. I mean, what the hell? And then they have bacon glazed donuts. So get the reservations if you want to go to brunch on a Sunday. That's the one that will cure the hangover from the night before, without a doubt. It'll probably give you.
Don't let the snow hold you back. There's going to be brewers out every single day.
Totally.
And I'll tell you, as we go on during the week, people are going to be like, "Hey, I forgot to tell you about this. Hey, I forgot to tell you about this." It's gonna be quite amazing of the stuff that just keeps on popping up left and right.
I'll give a quick shout out to BM Watts. You're going to be seeing him and me on Saturday. We're just doing the announcements and stuff at the beer fest, giving away prizes too. So do work there. We might have some good stuff up our sleeve.
There's the infamous chocolate cheese and beer pairing at Throwback that
sells out every time.
Out every year, which is quite amazing. So there's just endless amount of things to do. We talked about it a little bit last week. If you've seen the episode, listen to the episode. But Portsmouth Beer Week will be the first ever beer week that actually has 2 different levels of badges that you can get for Portsmouth for Untapped.
Nice.
And I'll tell you straight up right now, first badge is checking into 3 different locations. Second badge is checking into 10 different locations. And I challenge anyone listening right now, because I've had conversations with our friends at Untapped, and they said it's going to be unlikely that people are going to get 10 different check-ins. So if you become if you check in 10 different places, you get Superstar. Send me a message. I'll go out there and I'll pint with you and whatnot. We'll have a good time in the city, and I hope to see you out there supporting the local beer community when all the restaurants right now need our help. There's a lot of snow out there. People aren't going outside.
When does that badge start?
That starts on Saturday the 21st.
Saturday. Okay, cool. So get going.
And it goes through Monday the 2nd.
So keep an eye on Untapped for the official list of places to check in.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Untapped should be posting it soon, and actually the artwork, it looks awesome.
Nice. You got a badge. You did it, Shano.
Exactly.
Jesus. So we're trying to do big things here, Carla. I mean, I know you guys you're still fresh off the beer week that you guys had.
Oh hell yeah, November! Oh my god, it was ridiculous. But no, I'm gonna I'll hopefully be popping down for 1 or 2. There's no way I'm gonna get the super special badge.
Yeah.
But I will be hitting up. I'll be volunteering for the Seacoast Winter Brew Fest on Saturday.
Yes.
For the first session, I got something to do in the afternoon, but I'm kind
of. You go to the second session?
Yeah, I wish. And also, all these events are at some of my favorite places, at WIM and, all these, the Coat and all these awesome venues, awesome restaurants, awesome businesses. So if I can support them, I will.
Nice. Yeah, I will be going. I'll be out and about Friday night for the kickoff through Wednesday because starting Thursday, I'll be swimming. So I'll be down in a little place called Barbados. So enjoy the beer week, suckers.
Nice.
Yep. Anything else, Shauna, you want to give a shout out to before we shut her down?
No, just you can find us at either portsmouthbeerweek.com or seacoastwinterbrewfest.com, and a great list of events and activities for anyone that's going to the Brewfest. It's going to be inside outside unless it's going to be too cold and snowy. So it's going to be decided at last minute, and we're going to just make sure that it works best for everybody.
Awesome. Carla, got anything?
No, just awesome, and cheers to New Hampshire beer, and it's gonna be fun.
Awesome. Well, guys, we'll see you, and that'll do it for this. And this will be if you're watching live now, it's gonna be posted like tomorrow, and then last week's we post tomorrow as well. All right. Cheers, guys. We'll see you.
Cheers.